This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by the Fire Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting thefirestore.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzow. I am a brand new fire officer. I've been in the fire service for about 15 years. I'm a writer for Fire Rescue 1, and I'm just damn happy to be here and super charged up because we have some great conversations behind the scenes. And our guest today is one that is really just the essence of gratitude, the essence of tactics, of learning, of being better, and really the essence of what we do here on the Better Every Shift podcast. I am not alone. Besides our wonderful guest, we have the commander, as I like to call her, the editor-in-chief of Fire Rescue 1, Janelle Fosquet. Checking in with you, Janelle. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to have a fellow Bay Area native on the show.
Obviously, there's a lot of love for the Bay Area here because we have from San Francisco Fire Department, Assistant Chief Nicol Juratovac with us. And Chief, well, I know that you already love Janelle because she's from the Bay Area. Hopefully you and I will warm up to each other because we're all about improving. I can't thank you enough for being here because we've already had great conversations and you've taught me a lot behind the scenes. So we'll hopefully try to bring that forward. But how are you today, Chief?
Oh, I'm doing great, Aaron and Janelle. Thank you both for having me. And, it's a beautiful day in paradise, right? Anytime we get to talk about fires, because number one, we love going to them, and talking about them is like the next best thing. So thank you.
And well, I'm excited to do this also because behind the scenes, I'm a brand new fire officer, and I'm trying to just learn from other, departments, from other situations, from other fires. And you have a lot of experience. You're an assistant chief with the San Francisco Fire Department. You started there in 97. You began at the rank of firefighter EMT, promoted to assistant chief in 2017. You also are a graduate from the National Fire Academy Executive Fire Officer Program. You're a member of the Fire Rescue 1 Editorial Advisory Board, but you've had a lot of some really great fires. Great from the standpoint of some didn't turn out very fortunate, but with your attitude and the way that you have approached it, you're paying that forward. So let's start with that. First of all, you have an unbelievable, I just love you have an infectious attitude towards, being in the fire service. Where does that start and come from?
Well, I think, Aaron, we're just people, and we have bad days and we have good days. And in the end, I choose to look at the positive in every day. And when I first came into the fire department, I noticed a culture of a lot of blaming when things didn't go well. And when things did go well, there was a lot of kind of hoarding of information. And I didn't know where that was coming from. And remember, this was the city that I grew up in, but it was kind of strange. When I joined the fire department, I felt like I was back in the 50s, had to get used to this culture. And so as I started rising up in the ranks and as I realized my sphere of influence started to grow, I wanted to change that culture. And, as Billy Goldfeder always says, if you have a really toxic culture, it'll eat safety for breakfast all day, every day, right? And it's true. It's like the Titanic. It's trying to turn, but it's going to hit a couple of icebergs, and hopefully this Titanic won't sink. But I also got tired of just people getting injured. I mean, we've had a good number of line of duty deaths in my 27 years, the last 3 of which have been due to below grade fires. And I kind of just got sick and tired of being sick and tired about how we could do things better. And I wanted to be part of that change. And every day is that opportunity to affect that change. And I want to be part of that.
That's the essence of what we're trying to do here. And just even in our short 5 minutes, behind the scenes, I had a page of notes already. And I want you to transfer that to our listeners because I think your infectious attitude is one that is going to help change the fire service. And I believe it's already started. And so let's start with broad. All right. I'm a brand new officer. give me 3 things that you've seen through your years of experience as a new officer I should really be doing or
All right.
looking at or learning.
That's a great question. First of all, the fact that you have 15 years on the job, Aaron, and you just promoted, that's not 15 weeks. That's not 15 months. It's 15 years. So I'm going to approach you differently than the guy that promoted after 5 years. And with that, with your 15 years, the first thing I'll tell you is, hey, you are now the leader. And the most important characteristic to have is that command presence, whether you're a line officer or a chief officer, in this case, a lieutenant or captain. And when you lead, you've got to take charge. I mean, firefighters, they're brilliant. They are some of the smartest group of people I've ever met. And it helps to have a crew that when you turn around and tell them, hey, I want the 35, they already have it on their shoulder. Mm-hmm. So as that officer with 15 years, I know that you're going to give your crew the respect that they deserve. But at the same time, I know that you're going to lead. So we talked about below grade fires, last 3 line of duty deaths. I want to know where you are as far as if you get your below grade fire tomorrow. And some of the salient points really mirror the NIOSH reports on below grade fires. And that mirrors our policy today. Number 1, we're not going to go down the belly of the beast anymore. Going down those stairs, interior stairs, those days are over. And that's a last resort. So what are we going to do? 360, 360, 360. You've got to do that perimeter. And then if you say, hey, Nicole, I can't do the perimeter because I've got a building that's attached on both sides. Okay, no problem. Make sure the truck that's going up does that perimeter. But you don't bust a move until we get intel of that rear. And you also have the exposures. You can go through the neighbor's house. You can go check out the Charlie side that way. But we need that intel. And then number 2, do we have any viable victims? When we had the last 2 line of duty deaths, everyone made it out. So when you get that intelligence, hey, slow down, right? Like Gordon Graham always says, the way firefighters eat a muffin versus cops, cops kind of nitpick at it and firefighters go, oh, we're kind of like that. That's how we were born and bred, right? And we would get crucified if we weren't like that, as far as being aggressive. But, of course, we want to be intelligently aggressive, not arbitrarily aggressive. And if we have grandma down there and it is a viable rescue in that it's the fire behavior hasn't evolved to where it is a recovery and not a rescue, then we're going to go get her for sure. But let's have a ventilation opening on the opposite end of our hose streams. Let's have a second line at the top of the stairs. Let's make sure that everything is coordinated. So it sounds really simple, but I always question, why didn't we get it right the first time in 1995 when Louis Membretti died at a below grade fire? I mean, granted, the garage door did shut on them with the hose line there as well. But it happened again, 15 years later? Same engine company, same district, same below grade fire. So that's number 1. Number 2, let's put our truck helmet on. I want to make sure, Aaron, that you are that aggressive truck boss where you're looking for every laddering opportunity before you even check in with me at the command post, especially if you're the second due truck. I don't want you to come in and say, hey, chief, what ladder and where? That's your job as a truck officer. Make me an offer I can't refuse, right? Like The Godfather. We love that.
Right. Make me an offer though, which means that you're thinking ahead as you're approaching that, right? Like, yeah, that's what that's telling you as a chief. All right, Zam is coming up. He already knows they're going to the second floor. He's got 2 means of egress that he needs to get up there. He needs to get ladders up there. Yep. And I'm coming to you with that, right?
Exactly. And when you walk up to me, I'm going to say, hey, Zam, man, I'm checking out the way you walk, the look in your eyes. Are you hungry? Do you want to work? And I'm looking at your crew. Do they want work? And I'm going to give you plenty of work, but you got to come with something, because you're walking up to the command post at least a block away, half a block away, and you're seeing these opportunities. You might see something on the Delta side or the Charlie side that I hadn't seen. And to this day, in the 7 years that I've been a division chief, I've never turned down an officer's offer. Never, because I know he's thinking and he's actually helping me out. and laddering the fire escapes. I'm not able to see all the fire escapes, especially on the Charlie side. So I love that about an aggressive truck boss. And then the final thing is really when it comes to engine company operations, what did I say in the past? I don't like close games. I like blowouts. I like dominating and smashing the enemy. What did Colin Powell say? We want to dominate with so much force where the enemy has no chance of victory. And that's the mentality that we want on the fireground. And engine companies have made selections of an inch and 3/4 when they should have made a selection of the 2.5. We do have this love affair with this inch and 3/4. I want a breakup with that inch and 3/4. I want a love affair with the 2.5. But at least they made a decision. At least that officer decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to pull this line. I'm going to get water on it. And then maybe the subsequent lines can be the larger diameter hose. So little things like that. Those are the top 3 things I can think about. Obviously, there's so many more. But given that you've got 15 years coming into the party, I'm going to give you that respect and have you a little bit more advanced rather than the guy that promoted after 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. And so now from those 3 questions, of course, I'm thinking, all right, so you mentioned, let's see, building construction. You're as an officer, because as I'm coming up, if I'm looking at that building, I should know the construction. You had mentioned adjacent structures. So obviously knowing my territory. And then obviously, a lot of the studies with UL and how fires are burning. That's the obvious third thing that now I wrote down that we need to know. What did I miss there?
I think in San Francisco, as much as we can study building construction, which is a whole different animal, right? I'm always surprised at getting surprised. Many times in San Francisco, what you see is not what you get. For example, a 3-story type 5 multi-residential occupancy may be a 3-story type 5. But then if you're walking around the truck after the truck or engine is positioned, you'll be able to see that 4th story setback penthouse, something that you weren't able to see if you had gotten directly onto the sidewalk to just, look at the front entrance of the building. The other thing is a lot of these balloon frame Victorian houses that we have, they look like the balloon frame construction in the front, but then it's been redeveloped and redesigned to where it's all lightweight truss, roof and floor. And they want to preserve that sort of old school look. So we've been surprised about that. Many times we've gone into a commercial warehouse where we're pulling ceilings and walls. Well, it's not just sheetrock plaster, it's metal lath. And we're going to special call another truck company to assist. I mean, that's what makes the job fascinating and challenging. And when officers encounter something like that, I want them to communicate so we can figure out how we can combat this thing together. Overhaul is a beast in San Francisco. Many firefighters have left the truck because they didn't want to deal with the overhaul. Granted, now we have a overhaul policy where we try to minimize our overhaul. Whereas when I came in, some of the chiefs wanted that apartment to look better than when we first found it. I mean, it was just 3-4 hours of overhaul. People were getting injured doing overhaul. Chiefs would come in, it looks pretty good. They'll be like, no, I want those baseboards out. No, I want you to take out that joist. So I know several people who left the truck for that, but today it's a little bit more tempered because of the limiting our exposures, but overhaul is still key because, obviously we don't want to rekindle.
How much have you seen, what stands out in your mind as the biggest change over the 27 years?
Oh man, you're putting me in the hot seat there. I don't want to get too esoteric about it. Let's just stick with strategy and tactics.
Sure.
The thing that amazes me is there is a generational difference, I should say. The mistakes are the same. The next generation's making the same mistakes. But I notice with the younger generation, I guess I'm Generation Y. I don't really know. I'm the 70s crowd.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think
we're Gen X. We're Gen X.
Yeah.
Gen X.
70s. 70s.
But, so again,
We're Gen Awesome is what we're saying
there
right
you
now,
go.
right? Yeah.
The Gen Misfits, right?
Yeah, you're a generation of misfits. Yeah.
The younger generation, what I've noticed is they want to know the whys, and they really want to do well. For sure, we all want to do well, but they, I think, are so hungry in a way that they're not getting the fires that we got in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, nothing was sprinklered. Right now, you've got the entire Tenderloin district sprinklered. But because they're lacking that, they're so hungry for that knowledge, and they're way smarter than I was. I mean, seriously, I don't know if it's just because they're more of a reading generation or what, but so I respect that. I respect that a lot, and they're teaching me how to be vulnerable. Hey, I made a mistake here. I'm going to do better this time. So they're less aggressive about having that sort of armor of defensiveness, which I saw a lot coming in. I mean, we would talk about fires back in the day, and you'd wonder, man, were we at the same fire?
Yeah.
Like everyone did great. Oh, I did this, I did that. It's like, oh, that's not what I saw.
Yeah, right. It's a rah-rah fest instead of a, hey, we could do better than this, or we need to do better than this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I admire their hunger, their motivation, and I think we all had a little bit of that coming up. So I want to foster that, and I want to feed it. I want to give them the buffet that they want, and hence programs like this are contagious.
Well, yeah, we were talking a little bit offline about mission-driven culture, and I think a lot of what you're talking about is just the newer firefighters, the younger firefighters are coming in with a different sense of what they want their culture to be and how they want to feel when they go to work. Are you seeing that?
Oh, for sure. What I love about this generation is we all love going to fires, right? And I always ask them, hey, what's the worst thing about going to 3 fires in one day? And they're like, there's nothing worse about that. It's great. Yeah, it's great. Well, the worst part is running out of underwear. It actually happened to me once. And, what was amazing was there's nothing that brings a company closer together than a good working fire, let alone 3. I mean, but by the time we got back from our 3rd one, we were just delirious. We were just cracking up about everything. And these younger people want that. Hell, I want that. I mean, one of my ACs who I traded with the other day, he was upset because I got like 2 fires that day. I mean, who predicts these things, right? But the great thing about making mistakes is you're going to get another chance. And part of making those mistakes is you got to brush it off. You got to learn from it and move on. Kind of like when we, deploy that 2.5 inch, hit and move. And, these accidents and mistakes, they can't get you so down where you get angry or bitter. That just can't happen. And I've seen that. And it's just, it destroys people. So we have to be the leaders that motivate them and say, hey, you know what? I made the same mistake, in fact, worse. So let's get the next one.
There's a big push to talk more about it, right? Talk more about the mistakes, learn from the mistakes. And I think that was a big shift for folks maybe in that, Gen X millennial range, because it's kind of the push and pull from the, boomer generation.
Some are still struggling with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But certainly I think learning a lot more. But I think the younger generation is like hungry to like, tell me how I could improve on that. Like, let's talk about it. And that's forcing some leaders, right, to then talk about it. And like we were talking about with Chief Bloom last week, like mission-driven culture, the officer being the first one to step up and say, hey, I made a mistake. Like, let's talk about it. And then kind of easing that tension so other people are more likely to speak up too.
Yeah. Hey, Janelle, we had a battalion drill the other day, and there were a lot of things that left to be desired, believe me. And it was a super young crew, super young officers. We're talking like 3 to 5 years on the job. And when I went around the sort of the recap after the drill, they actually raised their hand when I said, do you have any questions? Whereas my generation would have been like, you didn't even talk to the AC. You didn't even look at the AC because of just the authority that they had. And if they talked to you, you were just really nervous. Well, these younger people, they were like, yeah, I have a question. What exactly were you talking about the ladder and how it should have been placed? So we obviously welcomed the question. We answered it. Me and the other battalion chief that was there, and you know what? That crew stayed later 3 hours after the drill, because I remember looking at them at the station, because I'm right next to the division of training, and I was like, good on them. This is great. And that's what we want to see. And then also look at the new generation. Everything's on camera, right? I mean, Billy Goldfeder sent me a photo of something that was on Twitter of a fire that I went to yesterday. And I just saw it on my phone when I got back to the station. I go, hey, Chief, how is it that you know about this and have footage before me? And I was there. So you have no choice. You have to come correct. It's like the body cam for the cops. You got to come correct, because everything's on camera. And that means what? We can't just bring our A- game. We have to bring our A+ game.
Yeah, but there is a pressure, as you had said, that we kind of feel like, okay, because we are on camera. Give me some advice as to, all right, I think I know where your answer is going to be, but what's the biggest thing to kind of get over to when you do make that mistake? How do you get over it?
Well, first of all, you got to love pressure on this job. We're all alphas, right? I mean, come on, Aaron. I'm looking at you. You're pretty damn alpha. I'm alpha. Janelle is alpha too. It's just she doesn't. She sells it better than us. We just wear it on our sleeve.
She's more professional alpha, as I like to call it. She's real, yeah.
Like the Jedi Knight. Okay,
yeah.
We're just like, But
I'll take it. I'll take it.
You've got to love adrenaline in this job. And I love the pressure. I played sports all my life and I wanted the ball. And, I always analyze or give the analogy of like, okay, hey, this job, you got to step up to the plate. It's game time. It's, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. You're up by 1 and you're on defense. You got to make the play and you want the ball. Because the minute you think, oh, I don't want the ball, what's going to happen? A shot's going to get hit to you. You're going to take it off the chest, and you're still going to have to make the play. So, that's where we need to prepare. And as far as getting over things that don't go well, I mean, I'm a praying person. My dear mother, who is up in heaven, she always prayed, and that works for me. Other people call it meditation or whatever. You got to forgive yourself, and you got to understand we're human. And as I've risen up the ranks and I'm now commanding these 5 alarms, I can't remember everything. And there are fires that I come back, I go, wow, how did I forget that? So I started coming up with my own command sheet, which worked for me. I don't rely on the iPad. I do have a driver. I have an operator that keeps track on the iPad, but many times the iPad doesn't work. It freezes up. It certainly doesn't work in the rain, and it rains in San Francisco a lot. The battery's low. The other operator forgot to charge it. I mean, forget that noise. So I like to be the master of my own destiny. And I've always had that mentality of, okay, how do I make sure that I'm safe? Even as a firefighter, I always had my tool with me, whether it was a set of irons or a hook. If I was on the engine, I still brought a hook, because I'm not relying on the truck to split their crew and have 2 members come in with the engine. Many times the engine is operating alone. We have to get through the door by ourselves on the 3rd floor apartment. There's no truck. We have to pull ceilings because we don't have a Hollywood fire every day. It's black, acrid, hot, heavy smoke. It's in the walls. It's in the ceiling. So I wanted to be in control over my destiny and my future, because, when things didn't go well, the things that could have prevented it didn't happen. For example, me and like 6 other firefighters got burned at a fire, 3rd-degree burns in, I think it was 2004. 2005, I learned from that. 9% burns to my legs, and the whole time you're thinking like, how could this have been prevented? And then you get that whole like phases of, what is it? Denial, anger, acceptance and all that. It's really true. And that's with every fire. And I got lucky because I was able to fight another day, right? Was in the burn unit and got back to work in 4 months. But others weren't lucky. People have died on this job. Many firefighters have died, and many of those deaths were preventable. So, again, you kind of get sick and tired of seeing these things over and over again. And you have to ask yourself, how can I prevent it? And most importantly, how could I get over my own mistakes and do it better the next time?
Yeah. A good friend of mine is, he's now a coach in the NFL. And I always asked him, I said, how are you on game day? And he said, I try to take this approach to the job. As he said, I'm excited on game day, especially if he said, I'm nervous in my preparation. I'm nervous in my training because I want to make sure I can get what I can out of it to be prepared for that game day. And he said, but when game day comes, I'm excited. And I kind of take that into, looking at different fires, looking at different things, even if I haven't been there. I try to look at, all right, what am I going to do if I'm in this seat? How do I prep for that? Right. And I think it goes back to training. And have you always had, I could just tell by talking to you, obviously, that you have this, hey, we need to train for this. And if we don't train for this, it's going to catch us. Right.
My dad is Czech, but, he's from Ohio, and my mom is Asian. And, in our household, what an A- was? It was an Asian F. And also my dad, he was 20 years in the Army. And, if you had your elbows on the table, it got whacked. So, it was a pretty strict household, but with tons of love. And I think that the way I grew up was there were things that you had to do, and they were non-negotiable. And it worked for me. I think I led a very conventional life. My brother, who's also a firefighter, he was the artist and not so conventional. But, we both played sports. And if training didn't work, none of us would be doing it. But, I'm a big baseball fan. And as kids, we used to go to Candlestick Park. And, Janelle, we used to go early and we used to watch the ball players. And they would take ground balls 4 hours before game time. Batting practice 5 hours before game time. And my dad used to say, Nicole, take a look at these guys. They're taking 1,000 ground balls for that one ground ball in the 3.5 hour, 9-inning game. And that's what firefighting is really about. We know we're going to get the fires, and we all love going to fires. And why not put yourself in the best position to get those fires, which is why I've always tried to put in for the busy companies, because, part of me, Aaron and Janelle, I wanted to know what those guys knew. Hey, let me go downtown. I want to see what those guys at Station 1 knew so I can learn. I wanted to know what those guys in the mission knew. Why should they get all the action? I wanted to get a piece of that too. And I came to realize that I have nothing but respect for anybody who goes to those busy companies who get the work, because it is hard work. Firefighting is hard work, but that's what's beautiful about it. I mean, there's no job where it takes a toll on you physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I mean, I get goosebumps just talking about it, because it is a lifestyle, a calling, almost to the detriment of like our personal relationships. But I am just so honored and blessed to have had this opportunity to even work for the same city that I grew up in. So it is personal, and I'm just the luckiest person in the world to even be able to do it.
All right, so let's have you pay it forward. Let's go tailboard topic here, and I'm going to throw a hard one at you. Give me 3 fires and the 3 lessons you want everybody to learn from those 3 fires.
Okay. 3 fires. Cap Street fire, where 7 of us got burned. Never pass fire. Number 1. No matter if people are jumping out the window and you're leading a line in through that exterior stairs, if you pass fire, you better make sure that there's another line to fully extinguish the fire you just passed. Number 2.
Because you're advancing and you could you're going back through that going, okay, we should knock that down, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And it was, and I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but number two, you don't want to create a basement fire for yourself. Kind of a similar situation as the first number one key point. When you have a 2-story Type 5 and you have fire coming out of the second floor window and you have smoke coming out of the first floor garage, you better address that first floor garage. Now, let's up the ante a little bit. Grandma is in the second floor bedroom in the back. No question your line's going to the second floor. No question at all. But again, you better communicate as the first in officer and say, hey, I'm leading the 200 inch and 3/4 pre-connect to the front door on the second floor. I need a line to the first floor. Third point, when you get that line, say you're the second engine and you're ordered to open up that garage door, you better have that line charged. So many times in our job, we just assume. I had a fire that played out so perfectly where they led that first line to the second floor and they wanted a line to the first floor. I just assumed, oh yeah, second engine, make sure you get a line to the garage. Well, they opened up that garage, which is now your 10 by 10 ventilation opening to create that flow path without a charged line. Why? Yeah. Because the first engine where they were pulling that second line off of hadn't had a supply yet, and it was just a nightmare. So now, given that it was a close call for those poor guys on the second floor, who I apologize profusely to, that was a big mistake I made, is I don't assume anything anymore. And now I say, okay, second engine, I need a line to the garage. Make sure you have a charged line before you open up that garage door. And sometimes that communication will go over on the radio. And I always have my haters like, oh, that Juratovac, she talks so much on the radio. You know what? I don't give a shit. Okay?
Yeah, right. To avoid the reason why you talk. You know? Well, if you don't want them to talk, let's go back to the first lesson you taught me. Chief, I'm pulling that line. We're going to control the door and we're not opening it until we got water. Right? Like, so then I'm thinking I'm going to control ventilation. I'm going to have water there before I go in. So you're knowing, all right, Zam's got that. That's good. That's off your checklist in a way, right? Like, so now you're going to your next issue. But as a new officer, I need to communicate that, I know.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what, Aaron, I would love to have 100 of you in my division.
Be careful now. Right now, my chief is going, oh yeah, he's got a Rolodex of things. He's like, be careful.
Hey, if you're not ruffling feathers, we're not really change agents. Okay. I mean, come on. And I always look at people's intent. So yeah, to your point, exactly. And again, I mention these things because it keeps happening. And believe me, I've had heated discussions with captains that will just myopically always say, I'm going to the second floor no matter what. And to that, I will say, okay, that's great. But what's your rescue situation? Do you have anybody in there? And are you communicating that you're going up to the second floor? Did you even check? Because it takes seconds, right? To check the garage. Like, all these things I want him to start thinking about so that it's not just an absolute. And that's where the communication comes in. That's where patience comes in. The prayers, breathing, because, I get it. You get it. All these other people at FDIC get it. But if he is not understanding it, then I put it on me, because I need to communicate the whys and how we can do things better. And it takes time. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, right? We all want to put the fire out. We all want to get, the rescue. But I don't know how long I'm going to be at this job, maybe longer than, after my 30 years, because I love what I do. But I pray every day that everyone goes home. And that's the utmost important goal for me.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision we make as a company is about you, our customer. We wouldn't be where we are today without you, and we don't take that lightly. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at thefirestore.com for everything but the truck, and shop our family of brands, including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more. Now let's get back to the show.
So good lessons from first fire. That was the capstone fire, correct?
Cap Street fire.
Cap Street fire. Okay. So number 2, what's number 2?
Number 2, I will say that anytime you as a truck company go up to a flat roof, don't go up with your guards down like, oh, we got a flat roof. It's not like, they have to deal with any kind of peak roof. Don't forget your tools. Don't forget your roofing ladder. You think, why do we need a roofing ladder for a flat roof? Well, for that one rescue that's in the back on the 3rd floor that the firefighters on the ground level couldn't see or aren't even there yet on the Charlie side. So that's one takeaway that keeps popping up all the time. In addition to, hey, make sure you bring your 2 saws, make sure you bring your irons. Hey, make sure you bring that ceiling hook with the 6-foot extension because we might have a double ceiling. That's happened before where we're punching the ceiling going, oh, there's nothing going on. Oh, shit, there's another ceiling. Get that 6-foot extension. Boom, boom,
Yeah.
The devil's in the details about this job. And one thing I'm learning as I get older is all those little things that we learned in Proby school and as we were young firefighters, it's there for a reason. So, as we get to like year 5, year 10, we're like, we don't need that. We don't need that. Well, you kind of do. Other fires I've been to where we have a protocol where the second engine has to back down, drop 2 supply lines and lead out to the closest hydrant. Well, when we don't see that happening, we see them nosing in or we see them just kind of planted at the hydrant without leading hose lines. It's complacency, right? So until something happens, then you've got the driver trying to, hoof lines up the hill. And, when we're playing catch up, nothing ever goes very well. I like getting ahead of the fire. And as I've become an incident commander, all the things I've learned from the Billy Goldfeathers, the Tim Sendelbachs, the Rick Laskys, the Mike Champos, I mean, you name it, all these guys is you never want to fall behind. You want to anticipate, right? Not where the fire is now, but where it's going to be 5 minutes from now. So true. So we've got to do the fundamentals so that we can get the big things right.
Yeah. Is there a particular fire you're thinking of too, where they didn't bring that roof ladder and they could have made a better access? Is there
Completely.
Yeah.
I wasn't at this fire, but I had heard about it. And, obviously we went by the fire building and there were fatalities, including a newborn. And, it's so, the pain is physical, right? When you hear these things. And I know a lot of the guys that were there didn't want to talk about it. And anytime I'm not at a fire, I try to be kind about what could have gone better because I wasn't there. And I think the key thing is empathizing what they saw when they saw it, given their training level, experience level, and education level, because we're all different. And I try to get some key takeaways to apply at my next fire. So yeah, that roofing ladder is huge. Again, even on a flat roof. And then don't forget the light wells. We had a fire where one of our key critical things to do when you're on the roof is do that perimeter check, right? Well, you can't forget the light wells, and they check the light wells, but my takeaway now is check it twice because we had a victim down there. So, I mean, we're human. We're going to miss things, right? Especially when things get smoky, it's dark, it's in the rain, it's 3:00 in the morning, you're not your best self. So, when we reinforce these takeaways, I think I know that it helps the kid that never was on a roof, never cut a hole on a roof, and then all the way to the well-evolved, errands that will say, oh, yeah, that's a good reminder.
Well, and I think, people can look now at building construction. We went back and talked about that a little bit, but just putting yourself in the shoes of, okay, where do I see a building like this? And I think what you're talking about is you can look on the outside, you can do 360 and you can't see, it's maybe a 2-story, but then you're 4 next to it. And one of the best ways to get back on top of that too, on the Charlie side or, the Bravo side that you can't see, right, is from the top down. And it's almost like some courtyard kind of situations are kind of like that too, right? Like,
yeah, totally. So, my little ace in the hole, Aaron, is that third engine that shows up, or even the second engine. I tell him, hey, I need you to recon the back, or even the Rick, or even an operator. an operator that shows up that's attached to a battalion chief, and when I give them the job of reconning the back, they get really excited. It's like, oh, I'm going to recon the back. I'm going to get some intel of the back. Well, okay. Once they're in the back, I want them to give me a good report. I've heard everything from, we have fire. Okay. That doesn't tell me anything. We have fire on the second floor, auto exposing to the third, or to the point of below grade. Hey, we've got another subdivision 1 and we've got fire coming out of it. I need a line back here. I mean, those are the well-evolved operators or officers. I mean, I had an officer at my another fire about 6 months ago. He says, hey, I'm going to break out these windows right now because we've got a good smoke production. And he knew that lines were going in from the alpha side. So, when I have an officer that paints the picture and provides me with his anticipatory move, oh, he puts me in my Zen place, man, because he pretty much solved the problem. I'm not trying to think about, okay, what's he seeing? And if I'm not getting good reports, I'll send my operator back there or a battalion operator and say, hey, can you take some footage with your iPad and bring it back? And some operators are pretty quick because you think that would take a long time. Nope. They'll just go back there, put the iPad on it, come back with the video. Oh, I see. But, we don't want to rely on that. I want good, aggressive, what I call bird dog firefighters, bird dog officers to not only give me what they have, but what are they going to do about it to solve it?
Mm-hmm. So number 2 was, obviously just be prepared with your equipment. What's a third fire and a lesson from that?
Oh, man. There was this one, and actually several fires where guys are in there. Let's say you're the first-in officer, you're on the engine, you're knocking it pretty good. I always hear, command, this is engine 1. We need more line. More line? Okay. More line to me means you need like a bundle to extend. No, it has met everything from we need a backup line to we need a 2.5 to our 1 3/4. We need this line pulled. I mean, it just drives me crazy. So,
do you need more water? Do you need more line to extend to where the seat is? Do you need another line? Yeah. Right. Yeah. I get it. And I can see myself in that situation going, yeah, chief, I need another line. I need more line in here instead of saying I need another line or I need more water.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and what do they say? Communication is the biggest, the number 1 cause of line of duty deaths, according to NIOSH, right? They always say communication. Hey, it's the biggest cause of divorce in relationships, right? You can barely communicate with your spouse. Yeah. What I meant to say was, especially when you text, it's like, oh, gosh. Anyway, so, that's another thing I get a lot of heat for. Oh, she talks too much on the radio. And then the converse, the other end of the spectrum is, oh, I love the way you're so clear on the radio. So, at the end of the day, Janelle, Aaron, I'm a girl. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to talk, and that's just the way God made me. It's in my DNA. And really, I always tell people I went to Galileo High School, okay, which is like the worst high school in the 80s, late 80s. And I just like simple communication. What do you mean by more line? So when I hear that now, although I try to train my BCs and my officers to be very clear what they need, I'll just ask for clarification. And, it's important for me to get what it is that they want so we can satisfy that request right away.
Yeah. What do you have any other like drills that you do? Because I'll tell you, when I was training for officer, I would look at a fire and you know how you go through your scenarios. And in my head, I'm thinking this. And then when it's kind of like what this podcast, in my head, I think this, but my damn mouth says something totally different. I'm getting better. It's only taken 85 of these podcasts or so. But, I honestly, one of the kind of, to me, the most eye-opening things was I would walk around and I would basically talk out loud to my lapel. And that helped me. And I got that from a couple of my mentors saying, dude, walk around your living room, walk around every time you're doing a size up, say it out loud. What other tips do you got for me on that?
I got a good one for you, dude. Okay. So, first of all, the best advice I ever got, and it's so true, is you got to sound like you're really bored. I mean, I don't care if you climbed up 15 flights of a high rise. I mean, and you got to go to work as the officer, Aaron, you got to talk on the radio. And one of the tricks that I found helps, first of all, you got to be in shape. Okay. Because if you're running up 7, 10 flights of stairs and you got to go to work and you got to talk. The other thing is I take a deep breath and I just keep it very simple. Command engine 1, water on the fire. Command engine 1, we're on the 10th floor. We're hooking up right now. Just boom, keep it simple. Because I've heard like complete soliloquies and we want the LCAN, right? I mean, you can come up with a better acronym than that. So that helps. Number 2, what I like to hear from the officers is, I don't want to hear, I'm in apartment number 9. I want to know what floor you're on. Apartment number 9 could be on the 1st floor, could be on the 9th floor, could be, so clear, concise communication. The big one here, it's kind of off topic, but kind of not, is when you go to an apartment complex or a high rise, I want somebody that checks that damn panel. Our protocol is our first in unit has to check the panel, but it just gets bypassed all the time because everyone wants to rush in, right? We had a janitor run down from the 5th floor with black soot on his face and a used CO2 extinguisher or a dry chem extinguisher going, it's on the 5th floor. Well, what do you think everyone did, including myself? We went up to the 5th floor, and then we're chasing black smoke and there's no fire. Go to the 6th floor, the 7th floor, the 8th floor. And then finally someone says, did anyone check the panel? And then of course someone checks it and goes, hey, the lowest floor of alarm is the basement. That was a one-line fire. You know what I mean? So, and the converse to that is when we've checked the panel and it says smoke detector, 5th floor, 6th floor, 7th floor, we go up there, all we see is black smoke. And then someone says that someone checked the basement. And sure enough, it was in the basement. So that comes with experience, but we got to do the basics. And then when the basics still don't reveal what we're supposed to see, then we've got to rest on our laurels and our experience and go, hey, maybe check that machine room in the basement.
All right, let's go to basics, because this is my education. As you said, I told you off air, I said, you know what, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can, and hopefully people are learning through me. So give me, I want to just keep rolling with this if you don't mind. Yeah. Let's look at like apparatus positioning. Give me a couple of the basics that you want to make sure your staff, your firefighters, and your officers know. But then someone listening, in Nebraska or someone listening in North Carolina can also take.
Yep. So I love that topic because it happens every day. So the other day we had an engine driver, really amazing driver. It's probably got like 25 years. And our protocol is the engine positions well past the entryway so as to have the tailboard parallel to the property line. And that will facilitate hose leads, leave room for the truck, ascertain the 3 sides of the building, and provide a safe work area for the driver. Well, this driver tried to get cute, and his engine company was leading a hose line, and it took a while for the truck to show up, and he decides to size up the ladder placement for the truck. And so he was going like this to the truck saying, hey, I've got your aerial shot already down, assessed for you. So the truck guys are barreling down the hill going, oh man, he's got the aerial shot for us. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to do that for the truck, you better be right. Just like when, chiefs get cute and say, hey, truck, I need you to bring the 22-foot straight ladder to the back. And then they bring the 22 and it's like, it was too short. So I tell everyone, hey, don't try to get cute because it's not in your wheelhouse. Let the truck officer and the truck guys deal with what ladder, where. You can say, hey, we've got a rescue in the back. Let them figure it out. We've got a rescue on the 2nd floor. You've got an aerial shot here, but don't tell them where. They can figure it out because you've got the driver and the tillerman, talking, and ultimately it's the officer's job. The other thing that keeps happening a lot is when we have the truck show up at a fire, if you don't have that aerial shot, we want that truck to be across the street and out of the way so that we have room for engine companies, we have room to work, but the truck should be close enough to access the ladders. It's a giant toolbox, right? Tools and equipment, things like that. The other thing, let's face it, like the old adage that was always taught to us, hoses bend, ladders don't. The engine can go well past the entryway, maybe even to Bravo exposure 2, because they'll be able to deploy hose lines. We want that truck to have the optimal aerial shot because, like I said, it is our strongest, most flexible, sturdy ladder. It takes one firefighter to throw it.
So great stuff on aerial placement. The first point that you said too, like stick to your lane. In other words, I thought that was a pretty good pun there.
Don't get cute. Don't get cute.
Yeah, I gotta try, right? But I also think, right, like you also want that driver after the fact, maybe to evaluate it. So they're, right. So hey, if they're ever in that position too, like how can we get better? Look at your placement, look at everyone else's, and then take a big picture after a while. But hey, I'm responsible for that engine, thinking that that's maybe where they'll go, but they may have another option, or they might have had other communications, right? So totally. It's good to look big picture, but stay to your lane.
Yeah, totally. And I do see this in the younger generation a lot. They try to do too much. And whether that's being cute or whatever, they try to do too much. And when you try to do too much, you don't do the one thing very well. I mean, we had a very inexperienced truck captain pulling up to a box alarm that we had. And he has to get to the roof. That's our protocol. You got to ladder the building, and you got to send at least 2 members up to the roof to evaluate from the roof vantage point. Well, he was ordering his guys to throw the aerial, and then he ordered his other guys to throw the 35. Hey, I just want 1 ladder, dude. I don't need 2 ladders. And in his quest to get those 2 ladders up to the roof, neither one of them went up in a timely manner. So, that's just, again, from inexperience. And he needed to know, obviously, why we need to throw just the 1 ladder to quickly get up to the roof. Because as the investigation of this box alarm evolved, it turned out to be just pot on the stove. But we need 2 guys on the roof to look at the light wells, to look at any kind of intel from the back, and in his interest in getting 2 ladders up, he didn't even get the 1 up. So we want them to do their one job, do it well, do it right, one time, one-stop shopping. So you're not trying to throw multiple ladders. It's not like we've got multiple rescues in that situation.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother scenario when you have the multiple rescues. But let's go back to engine ops, because right now I'm an engine officer. So let's go interior offensive. Like we had talked about aggressive yet educated attacks. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit, I think this is a great topic.
Yeah, the best words that I've ever heard in my life when I got this job was interior offensive aggressive attack. And I teach at the community college in its fire academy and fire science technology program. And I get those kids to repeat those words like 20 times, and they love it. Interior offensive aggressive attack. You got to be aggressive. One of my favorite chiefs who works in my division tells me, Nicol, we need lions, not lambs. And that's so true. We need people who are going to bust down that door and put that damn fire out. When I was a probie at Station 3 in the Tenderloin, I had a boss named Tommy Ryan, and he would tell me, Nicol, if it's getting hotter, you're going the right way. Mm-hmm. And it's true. And, this job is not for the faint of heart. Clearly, you have to be in shape. You have to be strong. A lot of the women students ask me at the community college, what do I need to do to get strong? Because I'm swimming. Girl, you need to be lifting some weights, not just swim. Okay. Yeah. And swimming is great, but you need to lift some weights. And for the guys too, I see, especially the older guys, they're stretching more because they know that they weren't 20 years old, anymore, and they're 50 years old now. So, the key thing for that is that I notice a lot lately is a forcible entry. We're still not getting that craft down. I see guys just banging at the Halligan with their flathead when they could have gone 6 inches above the deadbolt. It would have made life so much easier. This is not about brawn necessarily. This is about technique. Guys getting inward opening gates mixed up with outward opening gates, pretty critical. Hey, why don't you read the hinges? Why don't you look at where the plate is? Is it in the inside? Is it in the outside? Slow down, assess what you've got. I've also seen when they can't get in through that gate, they just decided, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go in through the garage and go up the interior stairs. Well, now what did you do? You're potentially blasting the residents trying to get out the front door. We need to get better at forcible entry and also the basics. You know, when we have a high rise, hey, one of our protocols is that rabbit tool. Guys still aren't bringing it sometimes, you know, and the irons will work on a lot of doors at high rises, but hey, why not make your life easier? Bring the rabbit tool, because that's protocol. I keep a few of the wooden wedges in my pocket because I'm at the command post, and they'll pop open a door and then they'll look around. Hey, there's no wedge. I just throw the wedge. You know, it's like, hey, why not? I can carry it. But what else can they use? You know, they can use garbage bins. They can use magazines that are delivered, newspapers that are delivered, you know, bungee cords, wedges that the driver should have. So little things like that makes a good engine company. And then also Aaron and Janelle, they got to have the guts to go defensive. You know, I know that we aren't really big fans of transitional attack. Certainly we don't want to admit that we're going defensive, but with today's fire behavior, with today's building construction, you know, when the last time I put on a hood and SCBA, when I was a battalion chief and I was fire attack, the last 2 fires, I came back to the firehouse with blisters on the top of my ears. And I never had that before. And, you know, I wore my hood, I wore everything. And I felt like during that time, and I think it was, 2016, 2017, the fires were getting hotter in my view. So we have to be smart about that risk versus reward and have the guts to go defensive.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing, let's go into flow path then. Cause I think that leads well into, you know, you mentioned, you know, using chocks for doors. Obviously that's in a situation where you're not as concerned with flow path, but we mentioned it earlier. And I think we need to, you know, I see sometimes, and you see, there's a lot of videos that you can learn from where that's not controlled.
Correct.
You know, back in the day, we used to not, I mean, I shouldn't say back in the day, but for me, you know, I got in the fire service 20 years ago. They just, as soon as you opened that door, you kept that door open and moved your hose lines in. We have to learn from the studies, right? Elaborate on what you can, or what you want to transfer for knowledge to, you know, myself and those listening on flow path.
Yeah, Aaron, I could just tell by the way you talk. I mean, you know, you know what time it is. You know what's up. I mean, don't sell yourself short. 15 years is, like I said, not 15 months, not 15 weeks, not 15 days. And, you know, I always say 10 years times 0 is still 0. So I know you've had a lot of work in your 15 years, which is probably tantamount to 30 years compared to other people. But you're so right. I mean, back in the day, we busted out everything, everywhere, you name it. And we had a guy, he was on the truck. He would always say, I don't care if I see a television, I'm going to bust that out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a free for all, you know,
I mean,
but
yeah,
we can't do that now. I mean,
no. And the evidence is just empirical. You know, we see it. And so we had a fire the other day, and it was a 5-story type 5. And my truck guys who were on the roof, they actually asked me, do you want this penthouse door open? Well, yeah, because that is where you need to probe for any victims overcome by smoke. That penthouse door is critical. That's their means of exit. However, once you open it, maybe want to maintain the integrity of that door, you know, close it, not open it up all the way. It all depends on where is the fire. Is it on the top floor? Where in the vicinity of that roof is that fire? What are we trying to achieve here? Do we have any rescues out that window where we want to draw fire away from them? Where are our firefighters in relation to that victim? So many things come into play, which is why I'm a big believer of communication. I'm a big believer of working together in a coordinated way. And not to get holistic, but, you know, this is why it's so important to get along in the firehouse. So it correlates to getting along on the fire ground. If you don't get along in the firehouse, it's not going to miraculously get better on the fire ground. I've seen guys not get along in the firehouse and it turns ugly on the fire ground. And nobody feels good about that. And it's dangerous. So to your point about flow path, I'm thinking about it in my frontal lobe every day I go to a fire, especially since I had that fire on San Bruno Avenue where I had that second engine company go and open up that garage, assuming that they had a charged line, when in fact that they did not. And also, given that fire and playing it in my head over and over again, I would do a couple more things differently. I would move that company that's on that second floor to a position of safe refuge, whether it's closer to the exit, near the doorway, but I would let them know, hey, we're opening up that garage right now. We have a charged line. Get into a position of safety. And this is all stuff that has to be communicated. And of course, we have a battalion chief who is the fire attack group supervisor who I would be communicating with. And another good takeaway for him or her, I always say, you better be roaming around. If you're not moving as fire attack group supervisor, you're not doing your job, because you shouldn't be right behind that nozzleman or that engine company officer. You got to be looking at the fire building, because you got that building.
Yeah. You have to be the eyes for IC out there, that they can't be every single way. You already have eyes with your nozzle, right? They're going to communicate what they see, what's going on because of them getting water in the fire or not getting water in the fire. And then also, like, just, I think, my crew, when last time we did a drill, they brought this to my attention in our after action was, we said, okay, what if we're advancing hose? We're just doing some fire attack drills, advancing hose line. And we said, there's rooms. If you're going down a hallway, there is, like, you can buy yourself time by going into one of these doors, right? One of these rooms that's not affected. But to me, that was eye-opening, because we always, well, let's go back. We got to get out. And it's like swimming against the current sometimes, right? Looking for those different means of egress and talking about it. And, so I have to give props to my crew for that. They're a lot smarter than I am. But I think it goes back to making sure everybody just has, they're comfortable enough to talk. And yeah. I think, and I can tell that's what you're all about.
Yeah. Well, it takes one to know one. And, I'm in great company with you and Janelle, and you're so right about those rooms that are just so clean, that had those doors closed, those rooms in the hallway, and that's why it's important to walk through these fire buildings. Even if I didn't go to that fire, if my guy, that one of my colleagues went to that fire and I'm relieving him the next morning, I'm going to that fire building. I'm going to walk that fire building. And you are so right. When I look at rooms that had the doors closed, whether it's a bathroom, a closet, it is incredible. I mean, not one bit of smoke, damage, nothing. So, all that stuff that we saw on NIST and UL, I mean, it really is true. And to see it and to experience it, you really appreciate it. And then, I want to give credit to Anthony Castros, who talks about that task, tactical, strategy levels. And I didn't know who he was from Adam until I started taking his promotional preparedness classes. And the guy is just money. And obviously he's just a good human being, a good man, good family man, all that stuff. And that's the stuff that I love about these types of forums and conferences is we're all every man, every woman, right? And we want to share what we know. And again, we're so blessed to be alive and healthy, and, we get to go to fires. And, the great thing about taking promotional exams is I always thought when we were dreading it is, hey, we love going to fires. We get to go to 5 of them today.
Right. I mean, if you can recreate a fire, and, there's YouTube, there's now, I get to do it all the time with these great interviews, and I think that's the essence of what we're trying to do is you have had some unbelievable experiences, and your willingness to transfer your lessons to me in this case, whether anybody else got anything out of it, I did. And I appreciate it. And I could keep talking to you all the time for another 3 hours. I have 12 other topics, but that I think just means that we'll have to bring you back. You're not done yet though. We still have a couple more. We're going to dig a little deeper into you as a person. And so you got to do it. Everybody has to. And Janelle always starts them off with a great one.
All right, Chief, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the fire service today?
No, man, that's a good question. Holy moly, you're giving me the 5 alarm question right off the bat. Um, okay, I'm going to get real. It is politics. It is. I think politics is what gets in the way of us getting our equipment, our the things that we need to do our job. And as I get higher in the rank, thank God, I am at the highest civil service position, so I don't have to play the political game. But it never ceases to amaze me the egos that are involved, the backstabbing. I think Castro's taught me the firefighter handshake is they shake your hand and then stab you in the back. Well, you know what today's game is? They shake your hand, stab you right in the heart, twist it while they're smiling. So even though every department is an organization and it has its politics and ego, I think what's beautiful about what we do in the field, and Aaron, you can relate to this, man, because you're that company officer. You're doing it. You're the man in the arena, right? We're doing it. And all this other bullshit is just bullshit. And so they do what they do. They're going to keep doing what they do, but it doesn't change what we do. So I tell my guys and gals all the time, we're on our own and we're going to look after each other. If headquarters has a problem with any of my people, they need to tell me. We'll handle it. And we've never had a problem after that. But when they start writing people up or going after this guy or targeting that gal, it's just a bad way to go. And if we can just put our egos aside, which will never happen, because what is driving these egos? It's insecure people. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the things that go on in the strange world of headquarters, I don't know if they're jealous of us. I don't know if they want to be in the field and also make the money that they make at headquarters. I have no idea. But to me, they do what they do, and we got to take care of our people. That's the only way we're going to survive. And also, that means understanding and accepting things that we can't change. There's a lot of goofy things that go on there, but it still doesn't change that we gotta stretch hose and flow water to be able to do our job when the shit hits the fan at 3:00 in the morning. We still got to throw ladders. We still got to do our job at the end of the day, which we wouldn't have it any other way, right? We got the greatest gig in the whole world.
Yeah. Basically, we still got to provide our service regardless of what's going on above us. And that's a challenge some days. So I'm going to dig a little deeper then. Let's look at you personally and think about a situation that, was challenging to you personally. What was it and how did you overcome it?
Oh man, another good question. The first thing that comes to mind, Aaron, when you ask me that is my mentors. And they were all men because they were all men when I came in. And these were everyone from division chiefs to battalion chiefs to captains, lieutenants, firefighters. And the common denominator they had about them was integrity. And you don't really see it too much these days. And if I could be 0.25% of what these men were to me, I would be all right. I would be a success. And these men just were, just the respect that they would generate walking into a room, whether they were firefighters or, chief officers. And they always did the right thing. And what I found in my 27 years is doing the right thing is hard. It's so hard because you get all the resistance, and sometimes that means standing up for something that a lot of people don't understand right now, but they will later. And maybe they don't understand because it's not the popular thing. And there's so many things that I've had to stand up for and stand up for others. And it's a very difficult road because, to go first means that you get hit the hardest, right? They cut the tallest trees first. But because these men really exemplified what being a good person was about, let alone being a great firefighter, because they were all great firefighters, I can't behave any other way. But I have taken my hits. But I look back and, it's like the story of Joseph in the Bible. He went to prison. He was, just scum of the earth. But it was the very trials and tribulations that made him great. And he ended up being the king, So at the end of the day, I got to look at myself in the mirror. I'm not stabbing anyone in the back. I'm not going to go after this guy because you want me to. You found the wrong person to, do those dirty deeds. And firefighters, they watch more than they listen, right? So they see you, and they you can't be 99% credible to them. And I think the only way to be credible is to say, hey, I didn't do this right, and I'm going to do this better, when it comes to fireground stuff. But when it comes to ethics, you got to be 100% all the way, all the time. That's the only way. And I sleep really good every night. 9 p.m. is my bedtime, right? That's what I have in common with George W. Bush. I guess I heard him one time say, I'm in bed by 9. Hey, that's me.
There's a lot of other successful people that go to bed early. Trust me.
Yeah. But like we're constantly sleep deprived too, Aaron.
Yeah. I'm dealing with that right now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
I think I'm doing
totally.
Okay.
Like I just got off work this morning, and I got maybe 3 hours of sleep. But hey, you know what? We love it. But going back to what you were saying, so many things I've had to stand up for. And, I could even say even the Cap Street fire, where things didn't go very well. And it was, my fork in the road moment. Do I write what really happened, or do I sugarcoat it to, protect certain individuals? And it was the hardest thing. But I look back now, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. Sure, there are regrets. I'd be lying if I said that, I don't have any regrets. There's regrets all the time. But I have my faith, as I mentioned earlier, and, I can just chip away at being the best version of myself. And that's all I can do. And that's why I just love the two of you. You guys are angels in the fire service for bringing all this out and having giving us the opportunity to be vulnerable, because it's the only way to go.
I have 3 pages of notes, Chief. And so first of all, thank you for that. But I know there's going to be one more thing I'm going to add, because I got, the question that brings everything together. And that is, how are you working to be better?
Oh, gosh, you're going to make me cry. First of all, those 3 pages of notes you talk about, hey, just take it into the bathroom the next time you got to go number 2, okay? But no, in all seriousness, being a student of the game, we all have the love of the game, right? It's really being a student of the game, being a lifelong learner. I've been going to FDIC every year for the last, 20 years. And a couple of years ago, I was like, oh man, I got so much going on. You had COVID and all this stuff. And I just kept going. And even if I pick up 1 or 2 nuggets, it's worth that trip. All those years I was going back to the National Fire Academy for that executive fire officer program. It's not the institution and the quality of the institution. It was the quality of my fellow students that I was interacting with, that years later, I realized when I was having a bad day, I could call them on the phone and they would pick it up right away. I leave a message, they'd call me back within 5 minutes. And it was a godsend, because they had gone through it in their department. Even if they had an SOP on something that we didn't, they would, of course, we all know plagiarism is okay in the fire service.
Yes.
So I realized, when I go to these conferences, sure, the material is great. Sure, the instructors are great, but really it's the quality of my fellow firefighters that are that makes it all rewarding. Like I said, firefighters are some of the most brilliant people I've ever met. I mean, everything from carpenters to cooks to I just can't even mention, now we've got accountants, we've got, CPAs, we've got pharmacists, all kinds of folks doing this job. And I think that when you tap into these skill sets, great things happen. And we happen to be focused on this job, on this profession. And the more we continue to learn, I think the better. And what we're learning now is the generational differences as far as their mentality. And you can't learn enough about that, because you're learning about people. and in that you're learning about yourself and how you can best be effective.
Well, Chief, I can't thank you enough for your vulnerability, for your honesty, and just your knowledge. I'm not taking my 3 pages to the bathroom with me. I'm actually going to use them for a drill tomorrow. As I report to my crew. And I really want to emphasize this. If somebody is just listening to this podcast, you really need to watch it. Go to our YouTube channel and page and just see Chief Juratovac's passion. And her smile, of course, is infectious. But we're over an hour into this, and I could have gone for another hour or two. We'd really love it if you would leave a comment, a review, share this to your crew and other members that you think can benefit from it. You can also email us, bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. I always say, let us know if we're onto something or on something, or just send us a message to say, hey, I'm a misfit too. Thanks for the show. Whatever, we read them all and we appreciate them all. I honestly, Chief, can't thank you enough. Again, I'm going to say that. I look forward to many more conversations. And to our listeners, I think some of the biggest lessons that you can take from this is, be a student of the game. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and practice that every single day. And then lastly, also have the resolve to do the right thing. And then most importantly, as we always say, make sure you learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for listening, everybody.